Welcome back to We Like That podcast.
Because we like that. I'm Joe.
I'm Calvin, and we're back. So we'll be going over the same per usuals. 90 Day to Single Life, Love is Blind. I guess that was the what you call it, the
Reunion.
reunion. And Worth the Watch was
The Dirty D.
the Dirty D. Oh
Two.
my god, two. Oh my god. It's pretty much a porn drama. That's literally what it was. It's a
We'll
porn
get into
drama.
it. We'll get into it. Way
So,
too much information up front, Calvin.
yeah,
Way too
so-
much. But first, as always, let's go ahead and move into That Happened.
When that happened with Joe, skitty rap up up.
So I came across the Soul Faces Media on their Instagram. Please follow Soul Faces Media on Instagram. They put out these little verses for it looks like the decades, running from the 80s through the 2000s. And I really like the music pairings that they put up with that. That being said, we recently listened to the 96 versus 2000 part 2 that they got going on. So go ahead, take a listen, and then we'll dive into the songs.
Sure.
Let's go.
So fresh is so clean. Hey, this is one you know.
All right, Calvin. So first songs, Fujila versus Outcast, So Fresh and So Clean. I know what Calvin's going to say. He's going to say Outcast.
Then why, if you already know what I'm gonna say, why you ask me?
What did you think of Fujila?
It was an epic song.
Okay.
The beat, everything was about that song was amazing. But they're not beating Outkast. So fresh is so clean. They're
So-
not
Fujila came out in 96. When do you think So Fresh and So Clean came out?
2000.
Exactly.
It probably got made in 99, but it didn't come out until 2000.
You're right. It came out in 2000. All right. So it's going to be 1-1 because I like So Fresh and So Clean, but I really like the Fugees when they came out. I
Sure.
really liked them.
Sure.
Sure. All right. Next group is D'Angelo's Lady versus Santana and the
D'Angelo's
product
Lady.
of GP.
D'Angelo's Lady.
Maria.
D'Angelo's Lady.
Uh,
D'Angelo's Lady.
I agree. I know that word for word. But don't get me wrong. Maria was a hit when it came out. It was everywhere. Wyclef Jean helped produce it. It was everywhere.
Nobody want to hear those sensitive dudes cry on no damn song.
It was a staple for dances. Thank you. It was at plenty of morps, plenty of them.
Ain't no thugs dance to that song.
But thugs were dancing to Lady.
No thugs dancing to that song.
Calvin, then what is your determining factor? That doesn't make any sense. Nobody was dancing to either of these songs. What's your
But
determining
gangsters
factor?
bob their head to "You're My Lady."
Oh, please stop. Okay, next
That's
one.
the difference.
Monica, Why I Love You So Much versus Aaliyah, I Don't Wanna.
Tie.
Oh, didn't think you were going to do that. Thought you were going to say Monica.
Tie.
Seeing as she's a hometown hero.
Tie.
Interesting. Okay. All right, R. Kelly, I Can't Sleep versus
I Can't
Cisco,
Sleep, R.
Incomplete.
Kelly. Even though I don't want to do it, it's going to be done.
I'm going to say Incomplete by Cisco.
Stop.
I'm going to say Cisco.
I understand what R. Kelly has done to you or done to people.
I know more Cisco songs than I recognize R. Kelly songs.
And
I understand I
guarantee you,
probably know a lot of R.
9
Kelly
times out of
songs,
10. he
but I
prob-
like
You know what's funny?
actively followed Cisco.
You know what's funny? He probably wrote that song.
Incomplete? Let's find out.
Yeah. He probably wrote that song.
Cisco has had my heart since Drew Hill with These Are the
Stop.
Times.
Stop.
With These Are the Times.
Stop.
Okay? I love him.
I get it. I understand.
I
but-
love him.
But we can't, some things don't need to be said. And this
First
is
of
one
all,
those things. Stop.
You and I have had a difference of opinion for all of these songs, but this one I have to agree with you on.
Stop.
That doesn't make any sense.
Stop. I understand the R. Kelly hate, but we can't get delusional with it.
First of all, like we've discussed prior to this, I haven't heard that song. I have the nostalgia for Incomplete. I have not heard the R. Kelly song.
Okay, but let's stop. It's R. Kelly.
You're so crazy,
It's
Calvin.
incomplete. That's not gonna win.
Songwriters: Montel Jordan, Anthony Shep Crawford.
And R. Kelly.
No, there's no R. Kelly.
R. Kelly probably gave Montel Jordan the help to write that song.
What?
I guarantee you. It doesn't matter. At the end of the day, it's R. Kelly.
For you. For you.
Against that song.
It's one song. It's his song versus another song, not the artist entirely, just the songs.
That I can't.
And for me, that's Incomplete by
Okay.
Cisco.
Well, we split again.
I didn't know you wrote so hard for R. Kelly, but okay.
No, just in certain
Calvin, you told me to
stances.
stop it and agree with you that R. Kelly is the better song.
When it comes to that song, yes, that song. But we can move on.
Oh my gosh.
It's a touchy subject. I get it.
Because I don't know that song and therefore it's a touchy subject.
I understand.
Oh my gosh. Keith Sweat versus Keith Sweat and
Kiki Watt.
and Athena Cage. Nobody versus Avant.
Avant
Kiki Wyatt, My First
I'm
Love.
taking the two singers every time.
What?
I'm taking the two singers every time. And that song was way better.
Taking the two singers. They're both two singers. What are you talking about?
Avant and Kiki Watt. Oh, way better singers than that girl with Keith Sweat got handicapped because she was singing with Keith Sweat.
Okay.
I don't care. I don't want to hear his whiny song, his whiny voice. He's begging.
You don't like him, period.
Because
So
he begs. He's a beggar.
There's nothing wrong with begging songs.
Yeah. He sings from his nose. Nobody.
And yet you know the words to his songs. I
Yeah.
don't understand this slander. You can just respectfully be like, listen, both are okay songs. I just really vibe with this one. But no, you gotta like completely go after the other singers and be like, they are garbage.
You know why?
But this one is good.
You know why? Because of the R. Kelly and Cisco debate. I choose war now. So
I don't understand.
anywho,
I'm not dismissing that R. Kelly has talent. He's very talented. It's the reason he got away with what he did for so long. He was making so many people monies. He is genuinely musically talented. He's just also not great at choices.
so you picking Nobody or My First Love?
I know more of the words to Nobody than I do My First Love.
We split again.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. That's it?
So overall, though, you chose more 2000 songs than you did 90 songs. And I chose more 90 songs than I did 2000 songs. So that's where we are.
No. Yeah, I guess. Sure.
All right, that's all I got. Moving into, do you want to knock out Worth the Watch?
Sure.
Okay, moving on into Worth the Watch, The Dirty D2. Overall, this is the second season of a series that runs about 7 episodes. The first season only ran 6 episodes. First season that we were aware of it was on Tubi. I've recently discovered this is now on Tubi and Peacock. It's on several different streaming platforms.
Peacock wanted to figure a way how to get soft porn onto their channels, and this is why
Peacock
they did it.
is owned by Universal and NBC. It's a big streamer. It's not in need of content like Tubi would be. It's very interesting. Also, you have to pay for Peacock. Tubi free is very interesting. Anywho,
Peacock likes garbage too.
I guess so. Well, so here's my thing: is it garbage?
Yes.
We'll discuss.
All it is soft porn.
We'll discuss. So overall, The Dirty D is a series based out of Detroit, based about drugs, money, sex, and drama that swirls around inside one of Detroit's hottest nightclubs, The Dirty D, that's run by a shady power couple who employ conniving bottle girls. That's the description for the series.
Okay, here's my description.
Okay.
If you want to see a bunch of females just pretend to give head after every scene that you see, or after every scene when people talk to each other, there's a sex scene. This is the show for you.
Do you like naked ladies? You'll love the show.
That's all
You'll love the show.
Big booties, big titties,
Representation.
and that's pretty much it. The
Representation.
dialogue is
It's there.
Oh,
There are words.
so they just took a bunch of strippers male and female, and just turned them into actors.
Listen, we can
That's
act
all they did.
like we
That's all
above
they
this,
did.
but we have also watched another production by this group. I already forgot what it's called. That movie that we watched, and I think we talked about on here,
Detroit,
the Diamond thing,
the King
Queen Diamond or something.
Queen Diamond, or King Queen Diamond, something like that. It was horrible too.
But we watched the
Let's not act
whole
like it was
thing.
great.
But we watched the whole thing.
was-
Queen of Diamonds and Hearts.
How the
Oh
dude,
no, that's not what it's called.
how the dude said in Coming to America, good and terrible.
But
That's what it was.
But good is in there. But you know what? Good is in
I
there.
shouldn't say
Queen
good.
of Diamonds. That's what it's
Queen
called.
of Diamonds.
So we watched that, which is also based out of Detroit. Same production group. A lot of the same actors. We watched that whole thing from start to finish. Is it good? No.
And I still
Is
can't
it
tell you what
entertaining?
happened.
Yes.
I still can't tell you what happened.
We just know there's a bunch of strippers / assassins. Okay, they were working with a drug dealer who tried to double cross them, but they killed him. And then it turned out they were double crossing the double crosser with the DA, with the district attorney. Then it turned out they had to kill that person too, and that's how it
Who
ended.
dressed like a pimp for some strange reason.
Also, was a pimp. The DA was pimping on the side. Hilarious, and was a woman, and was in a lesbian relationship with the leader of the strippers.
Now, I'm actually all you out there. Does that make any sense to you guys?
But are you gonna watch it based off of those words? Yes. Which
If
is
I
the
ain't got
same
nothing
thing
else
with the
to do with
Dirty
my
D.
life.
We started the Dirty D. I watched all the episodes. I watched all the episodes.
No, she didn't. She fell asleep.
I watched them. I watched all the episodes.
I watched about 3. I
You
was like-
watched 4 because you came back and was like, "What's happening now?"
I watched 4.
And made me rewind stuff
and
so
then
you
I
could
was
see
like,
things.
okay. First of all, I don't like watching that. I don't watch that much porn, and it was like watching
It's
a lot of
not
porn.
straight. Calvin is a prude. It's not
Uh,
straight porn. But is it a lot of sex? Yes.
Ladies and gentlemen,
It's
you
a
tell
lot of
me.
sex.
After every scene where people talk, there's a sex scene.
First of all, you don't see much. It's literally like Magic Mike grinding to the floor kind of stuff. And then they fade out. You'll see a naked butt and you're going to see some boobs. And that's pretty much it. And that's pretty much it.
Look, I wish I lived in Detroit during these times because it's easy to get sex.
That's Calvin's other
Sex
weird
is
takeaway.
So easy.
The power dynamics that they've got in the show, every time there is a sex scene, it's because usually it's a man in power who's like, if you want to keep the job, then you know what you got to do. Like every time.
And
Or if you want me to be a lawyer for you, you know what you got to do. Like every time. And Calvin's like, these girls are just giving it away. And I'm like,
And
no.
No one
No,
ever
they're not.
says. No one ever says. You know what? No, they just go straight to the blowjob.
The point
No one ever
is
says
that
no.
they need the money or they need the service. Like that's the point. They're showing how corrupt all these people in power are.
That's not the only strip club in Detroit.
Calvin, but this is the fictional show based around that club.
And
It's supposed to be the most popular one.
hey, you know what? I take that back. It don't matter what club you go to. It seems like every club in Detroit is you gotta suck. You
I
gotta
just
suck some.
found it interesting that Calvin's takeaway was that the women are the ones making these choices and not the men in power. So that was hilarious.
I'm not saying the men are trash themselves. Even the good dudes that supposed to be good are trash in this movie,
For real.
in this show.
There's a cop who's supposed to be the good guy, but he's sleeping with like 80 people. Like he got a baby mama. There's son drama. There's like a bunch of stuff going on. Starts dating the nurse who was nice to him, only to play in her face. It's very interesting.
It does make sense.
Anyway,
All I know is
let's go over the first episode, Calvin.
I don't remember the first episode.
It is on the notes. So first episode is Consequences. We jumped into season 2 also. There is 2 seasons. We didn't watch the first season. We immediately jumped into the second season. And I learned that you don't have to watch the first season to know what's going on. So season 2 features basically the storyline that we pick up is that one of the biggest players for the show, this guy named Brick, is in jail. And his wife Tiffany is missing. AKA she dead. Then there's also like what's going to go on with the club that he's got, because no one knows who's taking it over for sure. Some people have stepped up to try to run it. Other people are questioning it. And that's basically the first episode. We get introduced to a lot of the major players of what's going down.
So pretty much I guess the guy he's in business with takes over the club. And now he's just running through all the bottle service girls.
So it turns out that guy was a lackey. He wasn't a partner. He used to work for Brick. And now he's trying to take over the club and be Brick.
Whatever. He's just running through all the bottle service girls.
It kicks off with him being like, all right, so I understand you trying to move up to work in like the VIP sections. come back to my office. We can discuss it further. And then he's just like, take your top off. You know what to do. And like, all right. Okay. One of the girls is like, listen, I'm trying to make this money. I got, stuff I got to take care of. I'll do whatever it takes to make this bread. And he's like, great. Get over here and give me some head. And she's like, all right, I guess I got to. She puts that hair in a ponytail and then leans over his stomach and he just starts bouncing her head. It's way too high to be what she's supposed to be doing, but they're going to make it work. They're going to make it work.
Whatever. This is all that the show is.
It's hilarious. So you have that guy as a key player. You have the bouncer Boom, who's also helping to run the business. He's more loyal to Brick. He doesn't really trust the guy that's stepping up to run the shop or whatever. And he's also doing some dealings with Brick's cousin, which is at a strip club. So you have Dirty D, which is the nightclub with the bottle girls who basically do sex service on the side, and then you have the strip club.
So
Okay.
really, what he's doing with Brick's cousin is he's trying to continue keep Brick's drug dealing thing going
On the the
on the
business
side.
that he was doing to help fund the nightclub. Yes. That
So
then we move into business as usual, which is episode 2. We find out that Tiffany's dead, which is not funny. We find out that Brick's wife has died. Again, we have not watched the first season, so I'm sure she was far more prominent in the first season, but we didn't watch it. We just know that he's kind of cut up about it, and we get introduced to her sister, Yaya, who is just she hates Brick immediately. And at first, I thought it was because she was close to her sister, because she's like, my sister's missing. We don't know where she is, and she knows who Brick is, and she's like, I hate him. But then it turns out she hasn't been talking to her sister at all.
she just hates everybody. She hates her husband too,
Well,
but
it,
she
it
likes
turns
to
out
sleep
she's trying to
around.
take over the business. That
Yeah,
was the whole point.
yeah, and she's trying to sleep around with everybody.
Well, so later on in the series, we find out that she's been putting a lot of pieces into play to try to get this. But in the second episode, it's just her demanding from the police department to find out where her sister is. A police department, by the way, that they've never attributed to the city of Detroit. They don't say that they're Detroit PD. Everything just says police. Just police. And they refer to them as just the police. It's hilarious. Anyway, but honestly, they making it work. I don't even know what they're shooting these on. iPhones. They're doing a great job of finding different locations to make all of this work. They're doing a good job. Calvin's just looking at me and not adding any commentary. So,
Why? I already tell you what this show is. For me, that's all it is.
okay.
I don't care about the plot, the twist, none of that. None of it makes sense to me.
You chose this show. Calvin chose this show. We were going to watch a different crime documentary, but he couldn't sit through that. And he chose this show.
So we're gonna watch the other thing too.
Oh my gosh. Anyway,
But I'm just saying, the show for me, it's
there's nothing good about this show. It's trash start to finish. Don't watch it. So it's not even worth the watch, is what you're saying.
it's funny to me. It's just funny. That's all. If you just want something that you don't really have to concentrate on when you watch it, this is the show for you.
Uh-huh.
Because if you try to put things in order, okay, this is this, you're going to confuse yourself. That's all.
The other thing is we jumped in on season 2. We jumped in on season 2.
Because we were told season 1 has nothing to do with season 2. So what's the point of watching?
We weren't
season
told
1?
that at all. Who told you that?
That's what I heard.
Oh,
Season
my
1
goodness.
has nothing to do with season 2.
Anyway, it has something to do with it because some of these players are from the first season. I think they just changed a lot of storyline. I think like it was going one direction, and then the second season came out, and they were like, "Oh, doesn't matter. That was the past. This is what we're doing now." So anyway, but in this series, then we move to consequences where we meet Yaya, and she's all in Brick's face and basically being like, "I'm about to start stuff. Get ready." But we also get more on the bottle girls and I guess the new stripper that's coming into that other club.
Pretty much Brick was messing with one of the bottle girls, and I don't know if he loved her or whatever, but he knocked her up.
I don't know that it's his because it also could have been the police dudes. She was messing with both of them at
No,
the same
she
time.
said it was Brick's.
No, she said that to get Brick. It wasn't confirmed.
Who knows? There's a lot of people that having babies, and the baby daddies aren't the baby daddies, apparently.
That's the other thing that we get introduced to. So we found out that one of the bottle girls is in love with Brick, and she's mad that Brick won't let her see him. Brick on the other hand is like, I don't give two cares about this girl. I don't know why she's so in my face. Then We also find out that she was in a love triangle with Brick and this police dude who actually put Brick away. The police dude seems to really be into her, but he's got a baby mama that he's still sleeping with and seeing. And it gets even further confusing. But he also wants to get back with the bottle girl. But then we find out that the baby mama is also messing with another dude. And to get back at that baby mama, the bottle girl is like, listen, you need to figure something out because you got two dudes that you chasing after and saying that they're the father of your kids, which causes a whole other ruckus and it's crazy.
So I don't know why people are trying to be in a relationship in a corrupt city where nobody can be faithful. Nobody, women or men, no one can be faithful.
Well, the nurse was faithful. So there's a nurse. There's a nurse that gets introduced as well. And then it turns out that she is a sibling to there's another police guy that shows up. She's a sibling to this dude who comes up and he's also a player. There's so many people that just get added. Also, I don't know what the time of the sequences are cuz sometimes it feels like this is all happening within the same day. And then other times they're like, we've been dating for 6 months. And you're like, you just came over for dinner. When did 6 months happen? What's going on? I don't know how long this is supposed to be. If it's supposed to be for a year, or if it's supposed to be for a couple of months.
Why are you
I
putting
don't know.
timetables in a show that don't even know what timetables
Listen,
are?
next episode that we watched was Business as Usual. I know I keep saying that over and over. The next thing we watched was Vendetta. And that's when we really find out more about Yaya's plans on the club. It turns out she's hired a lawyer to mess with Brick and kind of keep him entrapped in prison so that she can fully take over this club. But then it turns out she can't take over the club because the guy that was Brick's lackey, who's trying to now be the boss of this club, either doctored a document so that he can own the club or for real tricked Tiffany, the lady who passed, Brick's former spouse, into signing off paperwork so that he could own the club. I just found it interesting that he took so long to realize he had this document. Because it takes a couple of episodes for him to be like, oh, wait, you can't do that. I have paperwork. I enjoyed it. If you like fan fiction mess, where the plot lines are everywhere, there's not cohesion, but it's just drama for no reason, this is a great show. This is a great show. I can see why it's taken off in popularity, because it's popular. It's a popular pick for a lot of people to just watch and decompress for the day. It's because, like you said, you can watch this and not fully pay attention and still get all of the good drama that you want out of it and keep going and
Don't
keep it
worry about
moving.
missing anything because you didn't really miss nothing.
I also really appreciate that these are real bodies doing all these sex scenes. These are not like polished Hollywood filtered to death bodies. These are real bodies having all of these sex scenes. You're gonna see cellulite. You're gonna see jiggliness. I loved it.
So, if you're into watching soft porn and getting some type of drama with it too,
With a little bit of storyline,
it's like
this is for you.
You remember those little racy shows on HBO? These come on late at night.
You mean Cinemax?
Cinemax. They used to come on like the hotel thing where you just see titties and booty, but you never see
I'm
anything
gonna
else.
need you to go back and find a clip of the old Skinamax stuff because it was tame compared to what happens in this show. It was tame. You saw like a boob, and that was it. You never saw them going at it at all.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
But in Dirty D, you will see them going at it.
It's the same thing to me. It's the same thing.
It's not. I don't think you remember it fully.
They have drama, and then for no random reason, there's just a sex scene randomly.
No, the storylines for the Skinamax stuff, it ran the gamut. You know what I mean? Like it would be like a space opera. Like they were in space.
What I'm saying to you is there'll be a scene with people just talking, and then randomly the next scene is just a sex scene for no reason.
My argument is that the storyline for the Skinamax stuff was better than the storylines for Dirty D.
You know what? You know what's so messed up? That is so true.
It was cohesive.
It was cohesive.
You knew where it started and where it was going to end. It ran in one lane.
There was a hotel one. They used to come on. That was stupid. I'm like, this is stupid.
Okay.
And I just go right back to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
This is because when I was growing up, TV, we didn't have cable. TV used to go off. And then I moved to with my aunt, and she had satellite.
Mm-hmm.
And I just put the TV on something random, like HBO, because they just run movies nonstop.
Yeah.
So the TV just keep playing. I didn't know or Cinemax, because they just play movies nonstop. I didn't know late at night something crazy come on. So sleep, wake up, like what in the hell movie is this? They're like
All
whatever,
that
go to
music that
sleep.
was in the background, it'd be loud music as
Nah,
well.
but I had the TV was turned down. It was just for the light.
Oh, that's for you, is what you're saying.
Yeah, and for
Hilarious.
some type of noise in the background. Because growing up in the country, you hear all types of wild, crazy noises. Then you got like, say a tree might scratch against the
The wall or the roof.
something like that, and it was spooky as hell.
We don't
So
live in the country right now, but I swear I'm hearing all kinds of crazy noises. And you're like, oh, it's a squirrel running across the roof. I'm like, what?
sure,
Insane. But either way, I thought Dirty D 2 was worth the watch. It's gonna make me watch Dirty D the first season. Am I gonna be further confused when I watch it? Yeah, I am.
I'll check it
But
out
I'm
too.
gonna watch it.
I'll check it out.
You just said it was garbage.
Sure,
Which one is it?
it's garbage that I can just not pay attention to.
I feel like it's like the Love Is Blind, or not Love. Well, maybe kind of like a 90 Day Fiance Love Is Blind, but all fictional.
Love is Blind meets Cinemax meets
Skinamax
Skinemax meets what any police drama you want to throw in there
meets Love After Lockup.
meets uh law and loosely Law and Order, loosely.
I don't even think it's Law and Order. Well, oh no, I get it. The police procedural because
Yeah,
they do focus on the cops.
yeah,
That's true.
and that's it.
That's true. I do find it funny though that these productions have like mostly black cast and then one white guy. Like every time. Every time.
As always, you're talking white chocolate.
But he's always like in a position of power. He's always like a police detective or like a police sergeant or like always.
Let it rain.
They introduced this police I guess he's the sergeant. He's supposed to be like their lieutenant or something. They introduce him. He's supposed to be the head of this investigation for Brick's case. They're trying to track stuff down. Then all of a sudden, he is now roped into this romance with another side character they introduced literally seconds before, fully getting on at the table. I'm like, oh, okay, yeah. What does this have to do with the story? Nothing. Great. Yeah. Just
None of the
continue to
sex
show
scenes has
this.
anything to do with the scene or none of them.
What made me laugh the loudest further into the show, there's a point where Boom, who's the bouncer for the nightclub, Dirty D, is like, listen, I'm gonna need to run money or whatever it is. He's trying to run product to the strip club, but behind the dude's back, behind like the big boss back. Not Bricks, but the guy who's trying to take it over. He's trying to run it behind him. So he's like, I need one of the bottle girls to do it for me. So he calls one of the bottle girls up and he's like, I need you to do this for me. Run this. I'll make it worth your while. You'll get good money. She's like, okay, you better make it worth my while if I'm going to put all this on the line. He's like, all right. And then he just leans back in the car because they're talking in the car. He just leans back in his seat in the car and they just start having sex. I'm like, what? Nothing indicated they were in a romantic relationship prior to this. Nothing indicated that he was like, all right, in order for you to do this, you're going to have sex with me. Like, none of that takes off. They just go at it.
Because the producer who produces this show is a former porn producer, so he just throws random porn in there.
So my question now is he wrong to do so? Do you know how many people have watched this thing? So many people.
Oh man.
Was he wrong to do it? I feel like he was a low-key genius. He was like, it doesn't matter what I'm telling you in the story. If people know that there's ass and titty, they're going to watch it and it will be rich.
That's
Accurate.
so sucks.
Accurate.
So bad.
But that's it. That's it for Worth the Watch.
What's that say about us as a society?
The same stuff it's always said. That's not new.
Whatever.
Anywho, that's it for Worth the Watch.
She's not even trying.
I highly liked it. Calvin is everywhere on it.
On the fence.
But gonna watch the first season. Okay.
Might as well. I don't put myself in this predicament. Might as well see how it ends.
You don't make any sense. All right.
Whatever. This just like this show
Just like this show.
makes no sense.
All right, moving into Love is Blind. Did you catch any of it, Calvin?
Love is Blind. Yes.
What did you catch of it? Oh yeah, I made you watch some of those episodes. All right, so the reunion aired on Wednesday. Last Wednesday, reunion aired. Everybody was a little bit like, what's going to happen in these reunions? The history of Love is Blind reunion specials is that they are boring. Usually, Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey don't ask any of the questions that are actually burning on people's minds. And there's very little public or audience input into a lot of the questions that get asked. So it's usually like very coddling, softball questions at them, and that's it. But this reunion, they said, fuck it, we're going, if you want us to go there, we go there. It's a mishmash of like giving us what we wanted as an audience in terms of finally asking deeper questions, but also adding a bunch of filler that didn't make any sense. So we kick off with or who I'm gonna talk about first is the Lachey's. They did ask better questions. They started off with Jeremy, Laura, and Sarah Ann. In case you forgot, this was the love triangle where Jeremy chose Laura from the pods and they were engaged and were moving forward to being married. But right after Jeremy meets Laura's family, he went out to the club supposedly to hang out with the guys, but ends up meeting up with Sarah Ann and not coming home till like 6. Oh, I'm sorry, 5 in the AM.
Because her conversation was that good.
Here's my question. He said that he went out to hang out with the guys. The guys, who are the guys? He made it sound like it was the guys from the pods, but when they talked to the guys from the pods about it, not a lot of them went out that night. It's like 1 or 2 people, and they didn't hang out with Jeremy. So then it was, but it doesn't matter. He was lying anyway. So basically, it's this whole thing of like, why did you lie to Laura about your position? You gave your position tracker to her for her to clock you for whatever reason. And she did. She saw you leave that club and go to Sarah Ann's place and do whatever until the wee hours of the early morning. Why did you do that to her? And the whole time, Jeremy is like saying that that wasn't what happened. That wasn't the intent. And then later, when he gets pushed into a corner by Vanessa Lachey to finally give a straight answer, he does say it wasn't the right thing to do. I did lie to her. But him and Sarah Ann both say that they didn't do anything untoward Laura at all. They just talked. They just talked. Nothing else happened.
I remember somebody told me they were just talking to somebody. Then later found out they were messing around the whole time. I'm like, of course you just were. I thought you were just talking. I'm like, whatever, sure. They were messing around.
Anyway, but Jeremy and Sarah Ann have not been having a good go of it at all, especially leading up to that reunion. They recorded that reunion about last month or so, and it has been hell for them on the internet. Hell for them on the internet. All this stuff has come out about Jeremy. People have been going after Sarah Ann when she posts on her socials. I don't know what she thought she was going to get into.
So apparently Jeremy is an abuser, possibly.
Alleged.
Maybe.
Alleged.
And likes to play with guns.
There's
allegedly.
there's a story circulating from an alleged former girlfriend of Jeremy's saying that there was an instance where they got into some kind of conflict where he pulled a gun on her. She called the police. The police got involved and they noticed that he had a lot of guns, kind of a situation. But then when Jeremy says his side of the story, he says he did have those guns. And as a matter of fact, he lost a lot of those guns because of this lady. He talks about how like the police did come over. First he says none of this happened, but then he says the police did come and he decided to turn over his guns. Which for me, that didn't make sense in the story for something that didn't happen. Why would you turn over guns for something that did not happen?
And when has a gun lover ever just gave up guns
And
freely?
then goes back and say it couldn't have possibly happened because there's no police report that it happened. So therefore it doesn't exist. But then you also said they took your guns. You say you don't have those guns to this day. I have 1,000 questions. Also, that's not how police reports work. Just because they didn't document the instance doesn't mean something didn't happen. That part of the logic doesn't make sense either.
Yes, it does. If you want to say something happened, you don't have a record of it.
But police reports aren't automatic. They don't do reports for every instance that they're called to. They don't do that.
Okay. So
like if police come and break up a fight and nobody wants to press charges, they're not going to write up a report.
So his word against hers.
That is what he's alluding. It's just very interesting and weird. Anyway, but she's not the only one who's come out to say something. There was the other thing that came out that he had a former fiance that he was with when he decided to start doing the show. That former fiance also said that he was cheating on her, and she found out through the location device situation. He gave her his location to track, and he went off with somebody else.
Maybe he should stop giving out his location to track when he knows he's going to do something stupid.
Alleged, just a lot of shady, crazy stuff coming
Because
out
obviously
about
he doesn't
Jeremy.
know how locations and technology work.
It is so bizarre. But Jeremy's clearly the villain of the season. But like, I also don't know why he came onto the show. So, but yeah, so they were asking him and Sarah Ann and Laura a bunch of questions. They then asked Sarah Ann why she put out several TikToks where one where it clearly showed her in Jeremy's apartment, and she's talking about how people need to wait and get the full story, and just because the editing is showing her in one light doesn't mean that's what went down. Turned out that's exactly how everything went down. She actively went after somebody else's significant other, even though he didn't choose her, but whatever. um but they also, the bigger thing apparently for the Lachey's that really hurt them was her saying, I'm acting as a character. This is all entertainment, baby. We didn't mess with this one. She put out this very random TikTok where it was supposed to be her replying to people asking her why she's doing such terrible things on the show. And she's like, I'm just being a character. I'm giving you good content. This is the best entertainment. We didn't mess with this one, baby. And Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey really have this position of like, how dare you say that about our experiment, quote unquote. This show isn't just for entertainment. We're genuinely out here to push an experiment about whether or not people can find love without seeing a person first, which is cracking me up as well because it's televised and on Netflix, and we have yet to have a season where somebody didn't have some kind of crazy behind storyline. It's reality TV. Anyway, but the Nick Lachey and Vanessa Lachey are really pushing like, Sarah Ann, how dare you try to use this show as a platform to boost your clout or whatever. This is a pure and honest experiment that you are tainting. Then we also get Laura's responses to a lot of this, and she talks about how she just wanted a apology from them. She wanted them to straight up acknowledge that they did a lot of shady shit, and she at her cost. At her cost.
Why would they apologize?
Why not?
Why?
They do apologize.
Do you really think they meant it?
I don't know. I don't know.
Okay.
I'm confused by what you're
I don't
insinuating.
understand why she think they should give her an apology.
No, they were asking her, like Laura and Sarah Ann, or not Sarah Ann, Jeremy and Sarah Ann were like, we don't know why she's so venomous towards us. It just didn't work out, kind of a deal. And it's Laura being like, nah, bitch, like this my family was out here. All of this was set up thinking that we were going to be moving forward for this thing. And then out of nowhere, literally the very next day, you decided that, nah, I have to stop all of this and I'm going to be with Sarah Ann. And you didn't even tell me that straight up. I had to drag it out of you that you even saw Sarah Ann in the first place and that you had changed your interest. I had to drag that out of you. None of that came from you willingly. So that's what she was talking about. And then they give her an apology.
Whatever. It
So
seems to me like a lot of these dudes got to the second phase of this.
it wasn't even the second phase.
Well, the second phase is getting ready for marriage to me. The
Okay.
first phase is meeting the person or doing the thing in the pod. The
There's
second
there's
phase,
several phases. So the first one is them meeting everybody in the pods. Then it's narrowing it down to who they're serious about. Then it's choosing that person.
to
Then
me,
it's spending
to,
time in the real
to
world
me,
with that
to
person.
me,
Then it's going to the altar.
no, to me, that's all one phase.
Come on, you don't even watch this show.
The second phase is meeting the person for the first time and now getting to know the person and moving to the third phase, which is marriage, because they're already engaged. I'm assuming. At
Right,
that
they get
point.
engaged in the pods.
So to me, I don't.
So more than two phases.
So to me, the second phase, I can understand. They get to that second phase, getting ready to get to that third phase,
They
which is
were in the
marriage.
third phase. If those are how you categorize those phases, then they were in the third phase.
Oh,
Like just entered it. Just got into that third phase to get ready to start planning for the wedding. And then all of a sudden he was like, I don't know what to tell you.
to me, my second phase is they're engaged, which is weird to me. Anywho, well, what I'm trying to say is they get to that stage where they're getting ready to get married, knowing that I don't really want to get married. Some dudes man up and be like, "This is not what I want." Some dudes wait until the last possible second.
Well, it's also a TV show. That's the other thing I have to factor in. They know if they want the most screen time, they gotta drag that shit out. If they want screen time and be on the full season, they gotta drag it out.
Then I'm not for violence, but some of these females should punch some of these dudes in the face
Okay.
at the altar because don't
Waste
don't
my time.
yeah, don't embarrass me. That's embarrassing.
Yeah, I agree.
That's
I agree.
embarrassing. First of all, you're already scared to do this.
Yeah.
So now you must have the courage to do this. Then this person, just for TV sake, says no at the altar
Right.
because it's something they know they really don't want to do.
Right. Well, we'll get to that person because we were still talking about Laura and Jeremy,
And
and they didn't
not
get
even
that
that.
far.
Oh, you tell somebody, hey, this is what I want to do, and that person tells you his face. You know what? I just changed my mind at the last second.
But they didn't tell him to the. So with Jeremy and Laura, he didn't tell her to her face.
Oh.
He just like acted lost and was like, "I don't know why you were freaking out that I just showed up at 5 in the morning."
Or they do something like that where you not met their parents, they not met your family. Everybody likes that. Then you go, eh.
Anywho, but what else happened around that time frame? Well, Laura stays on Sarah's neck, basically Sarah Ann's neck. Then there's this whole group discussion with Vanessa leading it and asking if like Sarah Ann's good with the other girls from the pods. Answer is no. Like all of the other girls have definitely gone like hashtag Team Laura. They kicked her out the group chat. They don't talk to her, but they found it interesting that she's still talking to the men of the pods. They're like, that's interesting
That's not
and
interesting.
crazy.
That's not interesting.
Interesting in that the way that she's handled everything with being with Jeremy, it doesn't color her character well. That she only follows the guys. That's why it's interesting.
Guys don't care about things like that, really.
If you think she
Especially-
has genuine friendships with these men, you're
No,
incorrect.
no. What I'm saying is we don't care because it didn't affect us directly.
There's no group chat that she's on. They're talking about how she's following these guys on social media.
Oh, they're not responding to her at all.
I don't even know if she's talking to them necessarily. They just said they found it interesting that she got kicked out the group chat and then all of a sudden she was following all the guys.
Oh, okay. Sure.
Interesting. Anywho, so but
I thought it was something behind it. Apparently,
the insinuation is that she's trying to still keep tabs on the guys in case she wants to move on from Jeremy. She's clearly, at least from the perspective of this context, she's clearly somebody who doesn't care about whether or not other people are going to be harmed in the process. So she's keeping the options open, that door open
I guess
for
maybe,
everybody else who's in the pods.
I guess maybe, but I think she just wanted that one guy.
I
think-
disagree with you.
I think. So you think she wants all the guys?
I think she wants clout. And I think she knew to stay on the show to go after Jeremy because that was the person that she actually made the connection with. And she was like, in order for me to continue the storyline, it makes sense for me to follow up with him when we all get in the real world. So then she did. She sent that text to him where she was like, I understand you made your choice. However, should anything change, I am always interested. And that and everything else took off the way that it took off,
Okay.
in my opinion.
I don't think. Well, how old is she? Like 20 something?
She is in her 20s. Jeremy's in his 30s. And in my opinion, from the context that we get from the show, they definitely seem like that couple that's going to stay together in spite of everybody. Like when everybody's like, why are you even together? They're like, because. And that's it.
All right, sure.
So we also find out, though, that Sarah and Jeremy have not had the easiest time in their relationship. According to Chelsea, she drops that every time she's talked to Jeremy, he said that they have broken up. They've been together for about a year, and according to Chelsea, they've been on and off like 6 or 7 times in the duration of that year. And then Jeremy, I guess to try to like counter that, is like, I barely see Chelsea. And Chelsea's like, we see each other all the time, like a lot. And he goes, okay, well, maybe that's true. But, you know, I've
Why
gone
is he
through
seeing Chelsea all the time?
group settings. They're all in North Carolina. They're all in Charlotte. They see each other in group stuff.
So pretty much it was Love Is Blind, just this new North Carolina version.
Kind of. No, Love is Blind chooses like a city, and they go between North Carolina, Texas. They went to Washington. Like they don't do it by state. So it's not like the other love shows we watch where they're like Texas. They just randomly choose different locations, but they don't make it the center identity of the show at all. So it's not like Love Is Blind Charlotte. It's just Love Is Blind whatever,
Sure.
because they'll dip back into those cities when they need to. But
No.
basically, we find out that the relationship is kind of rocky, and it may not be everything that they're trying to present it to be, which is like they were true love, and that's why they did what they did. But I did love that Laura got to read them for Filth one more time. I love that Vanessa also felt a way about how Sarah Ann made her choices, but pivoted it so that she was like, I don't necessarily respect that you went after Jeremy the way you did, but the bigger thing is that you try to say that the show is just a game. It is.
First of all, she can't speak to that because she did that herself.
No, she didn't. Not the way Sarah did. She wasn't dating Nick first and then was like, just in case. That's not what happened.
No. Wasn't she a homewrecker?
Allegedly? They say it happened years after he stopped being married to Jessica Simpson. Other people have been like, I don't know. But there may have been some overlap. But
Whatever.
it's a slightly different scenario for them.
Sure.
Anywho, moving on to Trevor. They bring. I don't know why Trevor agreed to come out, but he did. Also, the show went to great lengths to show how they were going to torture this dude. They did a countdown clock until he showed up on the stage for whatever reason, because he doesn't show up with the main cast. When he does get on the stage, he looks terrified. This man looks petrified, but still comes out.
Did this do like a Royal Rumble?
For real. They all jumped on him. It was a cage match. He wasn't making it out. And it's very clear that they were just like, what the fuck, Trevor? Why did you do this show? All this stuff has come out online and TikTok. Your exes are talking. Everybody's talking about how you did this show for clout. And you didn't really care about the contestants. And they really tried to like make him an example of somebody who's going on the show for anything other than trying to find true love, which is insane because we've had 6 seasons where tons of people have done that since the first season. There are cast members who go on that show just to be on the show, like for it to further whatever they're trying to do, to bounce it off into another career. That's the whole point of it. It's a bigger point of it for them to even be on the show. And casting knows this. In order for the show to be entertaining, unfortunately, you have to cast people who are going to act illogically. It's what's going to feed into the drama of the show. It's a reality show. But for whatever reason, they really wanted to push across that Sarah Ann and Trevor were in the wrong for trying to treat this experiment as anything other than something impure, basically. And they really let Trevor have it. They were like, they read all the text messages? That took so long. They read all these text messages that have been leaked from his ex saying whatever. You had Trevor saying that his ex wasn't necessarily a girlfriend. She might have been a situationship, but they hadn't done like the girlfriend boyfriend thing. But he was definitely telling this girl he loves her and he can't wait to see her and he wants to marry her, which is very confusing.
Just Blaze.
And then you have Trevor saying, well, listen, I'm toxic. She's toxic. I need therapy. Clearly that's what's going on. It gets to a point where he doesn't know what else to say. He gets lost for words and he's like, can I leave? And Nick's like, sure, but first. And then they continue to read into this man and berate this man, talking about how it's unfair that he did this, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. And then Nick scolds him. Nick scolds him like he's yelling at his child for a good 5 minutes and then dismisses him. Tells him, you said you wanted to leave, go ahead and leave. I felt so bad for this man. I felt so bad for
Why?
Trevor.
They paid him to be there to do that.
I hope they did.
No, that's what happened.
I hope so.
There's no way.
I hope they did.
As
I
a
hope
grown
for
man.
all that humiliation that he got some money. I
Yeah,
hope
they
so.
paid him to be there.
I hope
Because
so.
there's no way as a grown man I'm going to come there and let another grown man scold me.
There's a lot of conversation around the contract obligations for this show. So I hope that's it because there is another guy named Matthew who also was kind of a semi-villain for the show. He didn't come up to the reunion at all. So I hope that was the situation. I hope it wasn't, we're paying for your room and board, maybe makeup and stuff for you to get there, and that's the payment. I hope it was literal monetary cash. I hope he got something out of it. Trevor goes away. He never comes back. Then we get Laura, who apologizes to AD one more time about her bean dip comment. Because the conversation that took off about objectifying AD went so wide and vast. There was a lot of conversations around sexualizing black women. Why the heck did she call it bean dip to flip her boob? Like, it was a whole lot of conversations around that. And to Laura's credit, she's like, she brings it up before they kick her off of the video, and she's like, I just really want to say one more time that I formally apologize about all of this, blah 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 blah. I did not mean it. I did not. The intention wasn't malicious, and I am so sorry for the impact of all of it. I felt like she did a good job of doing like a quick, so sorry. It was supposed to be a joke. It went terrible. Then we get Clay and AD, a rehash of Clay and AD, where they are now with stuff, where Clay's at with stuff. And this is the part that made Calvin watch because I got so frustrated and confused watching Clay talk about what he's done. Clay basically says that he's been in therapy, he's rewatched the show, and he regrets not telling AD that he does. He feels like AD is a big love of his life and he wants to be with her now. AD kind of is rolling her eyes and being like, you missed your chance. But then Clay goes on to talk about how, like, the reason he felt so unsure in that moment with AD coming down the aisle was that he reflected on how he has never seen a healthy relationship in his life that's been functioned, especially between a black man and a woman, and how conversations with his boys and other men, they never center around being in healthy, loving relationships. And so he just felt really unprepared. And then also trying to deal with the dynamics of his family stuff. He felt like in that moment when he saw AD finally coming down the aisle, he just couldn't go through with it. Here's the thing. He's been talking about not being ready to be married to her the entire season. So that part didn't make sense. His claim that he's never seen a black man be in a healthy relationship, period, also didn't make any sense to me. I'm like, zero people? None? Because then they talk about how he referenced a previous season, season 4 of Love is Blind, and he kind of felt hope watching Brett and Tiffany, which is another couple that was in that season. Is a black couple that stepped up to the plate to get married. They actually go through with it. They're still married to this day. They had the happy ending, and I was like, I don't understand this perspective. What did you think, Calvin?
It was stupid.
Uh-huh.
That's pretty much
Do you think
it.
Clay is actually doing the work to be a better partner later?
I don't care what Clay is doing.
Okay.
Clay never should have been on that show to begin with.
Uh-huh.
Clay was never ready to get married.
I agree.
So the fact that you got on that show, which yeah, I guess he got on the show just to put his face out there for all his many businesses that he's trying
He
to
does
do.
have a lot of businesses.
So that's the only reason I think he was on that show. Because to me, from day one they got together, he's like, I'm not ready to get married.
Yes.
So I'm like, then why are you here?
Yes.
And then I said to AD, then why are you still standing here?
Yeah. That's
Because this
also
is
yes.
stupid. So him telling her at the altar, she should have punched him in his face, but then she should have went in the back and then punched herself in the face.
Been like, what were
Because
we thinking?
she shouldn't have been there.
What did
But
you
this
think?
whole thing,
Yeah, the
my thing
man
was like, at some point, it's you. It's not your dad. It's
Mm,
not the surroundings that you grew up in. It's you. You can't keep quoting scriptures of the Bible, saying you're using it, and then be like, well, it don't work because it ain't helping. So
right.
is it helping or is it not helping?
Right.
Because there was not a lot of healthy relationships around me. There were some. I just knew what to take and what not to take.
Okay.
I think that goes to your mom not talking to him or whatever. I don't know what his
Her mom
dynamics
talks
was.
he was raised by his mom.
Then he wasn't paying attention or he wasn't listening.
Well, I also wonder how that source was given this information. This is also a lady who stayed in a relationship that was filled with infidelity for
that
years.
too. So I don't know, but at some point you can't keep blaming that
I
for
agree.
you being a shitty person.
I agree. I just didn't like him blaming the entirety of black men. I was like,
That's another thing
what?
that was stupid to me.
What do you mean? And then, not to say that they also agreed with him, but you had Brett, who was at the show, because they did this whole thing where they put the old couples in there too, who was like, I also understand where you're coming from. I had my own obstacles. I had my own experiences also that didn't really show a lot of healthy relationships.
But he manned up and got over it
Right.
and was able to do.
I don't know if I got over it. But
But he manned up and was able to do what he didn't let it define him or
I'll give you that part. He didn't let it define him because he says that he put his faith in his partner. They talked a lot about his concerns and his worries, and she gave him space to work through it. is what he basically tells her. And then you had another cast member from same season, season 4, who's also Black Marshall, who talked about how he also commiserated with Clay, talking about all those experiences as well. And I was just like, am I taking crazy pills? There's no healthy examples of Black men in healthy relationships with somebody. I'm so confused. For me, I wasn't buying it, but a lot of the internet really loved Clay's speech because they felt like he was really showing growth and really taking it serious to try to improve himself. And I also want to add that we also saw on the internet that he's going to college bars and college campuses, and there's a lot of girls waiting in the wings to give their own tell-alls about how he was messing with a bunch of people, both during filming and after. So, no. Anyway, so that's happening with Clay and AD. AD got her chance to talk as well, and she talked about how she reflected on how everything went down, how she felt Clay played in her face and really embarrassed her out there on that altar. And then she also had the chance to see the conversation that happens between Clay's dad and his mom. And for her, she felt like it really cemented how she did not want to repeat history. She didn't want to end up being Clay's mom when everything was said and done. She also went on a date with Matthew, the other guy from the pods that they have nicknamed Clark Kent. And apparently it just went okay. It wasn't wasn't anything spectacular. Chemistry wasn't really there. So they just let the things lie where they are, basically. Oh, and they also showed us a clip of Matthew and his time in the pods where he indeed told 2 women the exact same story about how he couldn't wait to be with them and yada yada blah blah blah. Verbatim. Moving on to Jimmy and Chelsea.
But you see what I'm saying? It's like, what are you supposed to do?
What do you mean?
He told 2 females the same thing.
In my opinion, the Matthew thing with telling the 2 females the same thing, she also talks about how regimented he is, how he's got like a very strict routine that he sticks to and does like day in, day out. I feel like all of that together means something else to me. I feel like this is somebody maybe who doesn't have the easiest time navigating socially and finds and is easier for them to work in patterns or work in a routine, like step 1, step 2, step 3, to get the same result every time.
Sounds like he's something wrong that he needs to go talk to somebody about.
I agree. Well, supposedly he was talking to a therapist, but therapy only really works if you really want it to work, kind of a deal. But either way, we haven't really heard anything else that he said. He said he's waiting for the perfect time to give his side of things. It hasn't happened yet. Moving on to Jimmy and Chelsea. Jimmy, it turns out, has beef with Jeremy, so that was hilarious. It turned out in the pods at the time, when Jimmy was going through it over whether he was going to choose Chelsea or Jess, the other guys were there to help him. He says, pick him up. They were out there helping him pick him up, make him, help him talk through a lot of his feelings to find out where his head was at. But Jeremy was there, basically mocking him and making fun of him. And then we also found out from Laura that Jeremy's main concern was that he didn't want to look worse than Jimmy as the show progressed. And Jimmy's like, it's just more fuckery with Jeremy. I don't fuck with that dude. It is what it is. And it's Jeremy being like, I didn't say any of those things. And then it's people being like, nah, you did. You did say those things. Anywho, they talk about Jimmy and Chelsea, but they don't ask the questions that everybody wants to know, which is, are they still dating? After their breakup, did they go back and start dating? We don't find out in the reunion and interviews they've done on the side. They've talked about how they dated off and on a little bit. And there's conflicting stories there. But essentially, first they talked about Chelsea's insecurities, but they kind of brushed over that. They kind of glazed over it. They mostly focused on the conversation around Jimmy's previous sexual relationship with his friend and how that affected Chelsea and how she blew that out of the water when she was not supposed to be talking about it on camera and how Jimmy felt betrayed by that. And ultimately, it's what led to him not deciding to move forward in marriage with Chelsea. They also talk about how it's interesting because Chelsea also has an ex that she's super friendly with. So a friend of hers that she slept with in the past as well, who she is super friends with, but has a real problem with Jimmy being friends with somebody he used to sleep with. And it's interesting that AD says that Chelsea, the way that we saw Chelsea on the show, which was somebody who was very insecure and like picking fights, is not the Chelsea that she knows in real life. But then later in another interview that AD does, she says that Chelsea's exactly the same on the show as she is in real life. So I don't know which one it is.
Whatever.
Whatever. Then they talk about Jimmy and Jess.
It's all because he told her she had bad good teeth.
You think it
That's
all stems from that?
yeah. That's all it is.
I think it stems from her own insecurity. I don't think the teeth thing helped at all, but I
It's
think it stems
what
from
I'm
her own
saying
insecurity.
is she probably was bitter until the first thing he can only say you have nice teeth.
In one of the
He wasn't
interviews,
saying she was pretty or gorgeous
in one of
or
the
nothing.
interviews she did, she said that Jimmy told her that she's the biggest girl he's ever been with. I don't know what to do with that information.
And that's another one.
I don't know what to do with this information.
Those two things
Anywho,
set
then
that off.
then they talk about Jimmy and Jess, and Jimmy talks about. Well, at first they were just talking about how like, are you guys friends now? Is everything cool? And Jess says that she thought they were, but she's seen the interviews that Jimmy has done as the show's been on, and he doesn't paint Jess in a good light at all in those interviews. He makes her sound like a scary, uh, narcissistic bulldog. And she's like, I don't know where this is coming from or why you're saying the things that you're saying. I thought we were okay. I don't know why you want to throw me under the bus like every chance you get. Whenever I'm interviewed or questioned about you, I make sure to say positive things about you. But for whatever reason, you just keep saying that I'm scary and that I know how hot I am and that I've got this ego that you have to work with and that I ditched you. Her one of her biggest points was that Jimmy's telling interviewers that after like a 10-minute conversation in their last conversation in the pods, she just got fed up, cussed him out, and left the pods. Find out that it was not 10 minutes. They actually were in those pods for hours, for like over 2 hours on his final decision of whether or not he was going to choose Chelsea versus Jess. And he was indecisive the entire time. So finally, Jess had enough and decided to call things off after hours of this stuff, which was hilarious to me. I maintain that Jimmy is a good guy. He is just not good with words. He is terrible with words. He doesn't understand their impact. He doesn't know that they mean things beyond just the definition of the word. And he's not good at putting them together. That is my take on it. I don't think he realizes, even though he has female friends, I don't think he realizes how what he says ties into a bigger meaning for the person that's listening to it.
Because he doesn't care what he says.
I agree.
That's why.
I agree. I don't think he's thinking about it whatsoever.
No.
Then they talk about Brittany and Kenneth. They also don't ask any of the important questions, which is, are they still dating or not? But Brittany and Kenneth finally make their appearance. They broke things off very early on in the pods. The way that it was edited makes it look like when they made their breakup, it was Brittany asking Kenneth, like, why aren't you more invested? And it was Kenneth not paying attention and just being on his phone and then breaking up with her. In interviews that Brittany has done since the show, she explains that that conversation that they put on the show was like their third or fourth try to show the breakup. They actually broke up off screen, but the show was like, we need to show it on screen for continuity. So they like redid it several times, which is why it looks like he's so detached because they've had this conversation more than once. And that he actually was very broken up when they did their initial breakup. Kenneth talks about how he called Clay, and Clay agrees how like he was in shambles when they broke up for the very first time. But they don't ask
Clay
them.
would not be a point of reference for
I
me.
agree, but they don't ask him if he's dating anybody right now, and that's what a lot of people wanted to know. Also, there's a lot of allegations around this man's sexuality that I just don't understand what the obsession is. They really want to paint a light that several cast members on the show are gay, and I don't know why.
Because they are.
I disagree.
Sure. You always do.
I do. I always disagree. But basically, my takeaways from all of this was that I don't know why the show and the Lachey's really want to hammer home that they're this pure experiment when we all know they're not. A lot of people from a lot of seasons get on this show just to be on the show and get clout. I don't understand this perspective that people on the show need to take it seriously because they're really trying to find love for these people. They are not. Otherwise, they wouldn't cast the people they're casting. I thought it was going overboard the way that they treated Trevor and to a degree Sarah Ann, how they were dragging them not because of their actual actions, but because they thought it was harming the show. Boo. I didn't understand why they brought the old couples on. All the couples they brought were not the couples that people really wanted to see. If they're going to show us an old couple, everybody wants to see Lauren and Cameron. That's the OG couple. That's the first couple that came out of Love is Blind, that got married, had the storybook story, and are still married to this day. Instead, they gave us a bunch of couples that people didn't really remember and included some cast members who are going to be on the next show. It also pivoted to promote Perfect Match, which is going to include Jess from this season, but it's also going to have Izzy and Micah from previous seasons. And Trevor is actually on Perfect Match, but they didn't promote him in it at all. So I don't know if they scrubbed his storyline or took him out, but he's actually supposed to be on the next season for that show as well. Um, and allegedly, season 7 and season 8 of Love Is Blind have already been filmed. All of this and those 2 seasons are already filmed and in the bucket, ready to be launched. I don't know what the show wants, and I'm very confused, but I'm still going to keep watching it because it's hilarious.
Good for you.
So that's it. That's all I got from the reunion. Did anything else stand out to you?
No, I just think
Oh,
the
what did you
show is
think
crazy.
of the stuff I told you about Jimmy and AD? There was an interview that went on. I think it was from E. Somebody interviewed Jimmy and asked him if he would date AD in the future. And Jimmy was like, I'm not in a place to date right now, but I definitely wouldn't close the door. AD is a very beautiful person, and I wouldn't mind that. And then AD had an interview where she talked about how swaggy Jimmy was, which is, if you're old like me, swaggy is just basically saying he had game. Like, she really appreciated the game he had when they had their conversations.
Whatever. I don't care what two adults do with their lives. I really don't. Um,
I was surprised that he was interested in AD, but
I,
Calvin said, of course he is. Look at his haircut. So apparently that was a telltale sign.
and two, what do you think he was meant when he talked about her body?
Being stacked.
Yeah,
I thought it was literally just objectifying her. Like, I didn't think he actually liked her. I thought he was literally just objectifying her.
if
I
they
didn't think there
not
was actual interest there.
dudes don't operate like that.
I'm
If
confused.
they don't like it, they're not gonna comment on it. If that's not what they do, they're not really gonna comment on it like that.
Interesting.
So he
Interesting.
made the
Which makes
comment.
that
Of
conversation
course,
worse then. Because he tells his fiance this.
I told you
Very
that.
interesting. Very interesting.
And now we found out he told her she was fat. So
You
I don't understand
said it's not
why.
that much of a leap. I don't know what you're
Exactly.
talking about.
It's really not.
Interesting. But that's it for Love is Blind. Do you want to run into 90 Day Single Life really quickly?
Sure.
Okay, go for it. Take it away.
I don't have my notes up.
Calvin, we watched 90 Day Single Life. We watched the latest episode before the tell all. The tell all looks much better than this episode that we watched.
The tell all, I don't even know. All I'm saying is I'm waiting for the tell all myself because people pop up that don't like themselves at all.
We'll get into it. So, real quickly, this last episode of 90 Day Single Life for the season, I guess, just focused on Natalie, Chantel, and Debbie. So, I guess Tim, Teray, John, their storylines all, I guess, got resolved. Veronica, all got resolved in the last episode or
last
so.
episode.
So,
So,
who you want to talk about first?
so pretty much Natalie is just gives Mike a proposition to possibly getting back together, and
Yeah.
it's Mike going he doesn't know, all being like, well,
It's
no,
Mike dragging it out and being a petty bitch.
and Mike being in a hole, and like was kind of getting into Mike to get behind him a little bit, and then he had to be an asshole about the situation and pretend like she was just crazy and it was her fault. She was going through the things that they were going through. The fact that he brought up that she was dating other people as if he didn't date anybody else after her as well made absolutely no sense to me. We're both dating other people after we broke up. She was not the only one.
Mm-hmm.
But to make it seem like she was the only one didn't make sense to me.
He definitely painted it like, you wanted to break up with me. Now you're not happy. You moved on. You were seeing all these other people while I was loving you from afar. But now that I'm moving on, you want me back? That's what he made it sound like.
Loving her from afar with somebody else who ended up breaking up with him because she couldn't stand his mom's neither. So let's.
He was being a real petty bitch. Sometimes the thing you want the most, you don't really want. Shut up, Mike. Anyway.
And her being like, family is always family.
But
and that's pretty much their sequence.
At the same time, though, I also was like, he's got some points with Natalie. I didn't understand her logic for a lot of this. He's like, I'm going to finally pursue finalizing our divorce, which means they're still not divorced, at least up to this point in the show. They're still not formally divorced. And she was like, you can't do that just in case we get back together. And I'm like, this doesn't make sense. This doesn't make sense.
Because she has a childlike mentality when it comes to relationships.
You keep seeing a childlike mentality, but I think it's just delusion.
I think it's childlike. Because even kids be like, at some point, be like, this is not working out. Even kids can realize this is not working out at some point.
I hope kids aren't in
No,
relationships where they gotta ask these questions.
and and just regular friendship, whatever. Kids can see when things are not working. For some reason, she can't, or she has this child. Like, to me, she needs to see somebody.
Right.
Period.
I agree. To me, it's a refusal of reality. That's what I would say. Because this is a grown person. Granted, she may not have a whole lot of
I don't. I
experience.
don't even know about that. I don't know. You can't say you were so sheltered. It's like she lived in a bunker for 20 something years
Do
and
you
finally get let
go
out.
back and rewatch her first season? She lived in a tiny town in Ukraine. Tiny. She wasn't even near a big city at all. She lived in a tiny, tiny town, and she was super religious. Remember, we were like, "Is she in a cult?" Because like she
A
was
lot of
so
people are
religious.
super religious.
But the other thing that makes me not think it's childlike is that she's been married 5 times.
I think that's why.
I don't understand how that feeds into why. I don't understand how that feeds into
I
why.
think her outlook about things are childlike, and I think that's why it never works, because when actual adult things hit, she doesn't know how to deal with it.
I guess the reason I'm saying I don't disagree with childlike makes it sound like she doesn't have any agency over her own choices. You make it sound like it's just happening to her, and I disagree with that.
No, kids make bad choices. That's what I think it is. She just make. I think she. I don't. I don't know how she makes choices. I can't tell how she makes choices. That's the thing. I can't tell how she makes choices.
I think she's narcissistic.
I don't. Sure.
I think for her, I'm not saying that everything revolves around her, but I think it's like an object permanence thing. Like if it's not something that benefits her directly, she's not even acknowledging it. She doesn't even look at it. Josh could get her where she wanted to go, so therefore she was going to stick it out with Josh, even though he was terrible. Even though he was terrible, she was
Whatever.
going to stick it out, and she did. And then she ended up getting some of the stuff that she wanted, but then she also wanted the romance to be attached to it. And when she finally realized that was not going to happen, that's when she ended up breaking up with him. I I understand what you're saying. I agree with your meaning, but I don't like using the word childlike because, in my opinion, it infantiles her. Infantile, yeah, infantilism makes her sound like a baby, and she's not. She's a grown woman who refuses to take the reality of all her situations. Whether that's because she doesn't know how to, she doesn't have that skill set yet, or what. I it, when people call her out for being selfish, I agree with them.
Sure. I guess. I
Okay.
don't know.
Who else you want to talk about, Calvin?
I don't know. All right, I guess Debbie. You can go with Debbie next.
Calvin, you're supposed to run this segment.
Debbie gets mad at her son because he told Ruben about all the other stuff she's doing for Osama's family. And now she's scared that it might put her and Ruben in a bad place. He sees her off at the airport, they kiss, and that's pretty much it. Um, Moving on to what's her face?
Chantel.
Chantel. Same thing. She meets Giannis to see where they're at.
You know his name is Giannis. I like how you keep calling him Giannis.
Whatever. She meets him. She's all dolled up. He takes her to a soccer field to show her where he works and how things are done. And um,
Lost. She's dressed up. Why is she dressed up at the soccer field? She's dressed to the nines. She got heels on. She's got a
she thought he was gonna take her to a restaurant or something. He took her to where he worked.
I don't know if she's seen where he lives. They're still in his hometown. Where
Yeah,
are they gonna go?
I don't know. So they pretty much kick the ball around. He kisses her. She gets happy again.
Her whole thing was like, I don't know where his head is at. Are we even in a relationship? Mind you, she's known this man for 2 weeks. If that, if it's even a 2 week situation.
So now she's getting ready to go to the airport with her and her
You should say that he
non-friends.
cemented that he does really like her. He does point out that I really like you. And she's like, what does that mean for us in the future? And he's like, I want to pursue this if you want to pursue it. And she's like, well, you'll come to Atlanta. You'll come to America and visit. And he's like, yeah. But then you got to come back to Greece and see me. She goes, okay.
So
Deal.
whatever. She goes back to her hotel, gets ready to go to the airport in the morning, and then he pops up with flowers, gives her another goodbye, go kiss, and
Hmm.
that's pretty much how that ends. And
Well,
that's
it
pretty
ends with
much
Chantel wondering, is he the one? Is he going to be? I'm in love with him. That's how it ends.
and that's pretty much single life.
Yeah, it's real quick, and then we get into the tell-all. The preview for the tell-all looks amazing. You see Teray talking to Tim and John about how he's still a virgin. I don't know where Tim was going with his questions in this the
Who
preview for it.
knows? And then you have Tim's, I guess, person he was talking to during the show, and Vanessa, Vanessa,
Louisa
Lu-
is the girl.
Louisa and Vanessa get into it.
Veronica.
Veronica and Luis get into it.
Not really. You have Sean prompting, at least in the preview, it's Sean prompting Louisa saying, basically, have you heard anything else about Veronica being with Jamal? And she's like, yeah. And then that's when she says that Veronica was like, I don't know why I want to be with him. He doesn't have a job. He's not working. And yeah, why would you still be with that? And then it's Jamal being like, did you really say that, Veronica? And it's Veronica being like, Louisa's dead to me. I don't know why she's betraying me
She's
and
dead
lying.
to me. And she walks off the stage.
It's very interesting.
And then people pop up who don't like themselves. And then for some reason, Debbie's there.
Two Debbies.
Two
So you have
Debbies.
Debbie from Atlanta, who's on the show because this was part of her season. But then you have Colt's mom, Debbie.
Colty's mom, Debbie, shows up. Don't know why she's there, but
Confused.
she's there. So it's Debbie
And they're going
against
back
Debbie.
and forth in the break room. I'm like, what's happening?
So I'm just getting ready for.
What did you think about Chantel's tears and her asking, I guess, the cast, do you think I moved too fast? Finding somebody in Greece?
They're all gonna say probably, sure, no, and then Debbie getting on Chantel about her
Making
saying,
her pussy too available for
which made no sense to me because I didn't. Whatever.
You're just sending a message that you're giving it to anybody. I'm like, what's happening right now? What's
Yeah,
going on?
so I can't wait till the tell all.
It looks up that is this going to be a two-parter? I really hope it's not. I really hope
I
they're
don't.
not
I
going to
don't
drag
care
this
how many
out.
parts it is. I'm gonna watch both parts. But that's pretty much
Do
all I
you
got.
think Chantel is still with Giannis?
No, I don't know. No,
Mm-hmm.
not at all.
I agree.
But that's pretty much all I got. You got anything else?
And that's it for me as well. Thank you for listening to We Like That podcast.
So we like that.
Go ahead and click that subscribe button. You know you want to. And rate us 5 stars. I'm Javon.
I'm Calvin.
Later, people.
And we're out.